What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Brinson. I'm your host. If you are watching on YouTube, it is Thursday, January the 13th. Happy 40th birthday to John Breach. Make sure and go tweet him if you're watching at John Breach on Twitter. He's turned 40. He hasn't seen a Bengals playoff win since he was 9 years old. Tough scene, man. If you're listening to the podcast,
there's probably this week.
He might. If you're listening to stop the damn AirPod case, man. If you're listening to the podcast
that got a lot of play on Twitter, so I'm going to keep doing it.
Oh my God, it's awful. Please. Joining me to make expert picks for Super Wild Card Weekend, Pete Prisco and RJ White. What's up, boys?
I took the week off. I rested my starters last week, and so my replacements didn't play very well. So I got to get back on track now that it's playoff week.
Only person with a winning. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm glad they put the Super in front of Wild Card Weekend, so now people will watch it. Nobody was paying attention to the NFL, but now they've upgraded it with Super Wild Card Weekend, and now people will start paying attention.
I was doing my show. I was doing my show with Tony Baselli the other day, and he called it Super Card Wild Weekend. I go, ooh, you better watch out where you're going with that one, buddy.
Hey, you better be careful making fun of Super Wild Card Weekend. The way I understand it is, the powers that be will come down, and I guess technically RJ's part of the powers that be now too. So I guess you can get away with it. But those of us worker bees are not allowed to question Super Wild Card Weekend. Maybe you the man. RJ's the man now. What's that?
What are you talking about?
You're supposed to embrace it. CBS is embracing it. You're supposed to embrace it. Super Wild Card Weekend. I think it's crazy myself, but what are you gonna do? Speaking of it. I'm looking for my promo and I can't find it. This weekend, NFL Super Wild Card Weekend is on CBS, featuring two can't miss games. Saturday night at 8 Eastern, of course, p.m. The Patriots and Bills renew their rivalry in primetime. Then on Sunday at 4:30 Eastern, two legendary teams take center stage when Jimmy G and the 49ers clash with Dak and the Cowboys. Super Wild Card Weekend, Saturday night and Sunday afternoon on CBS. Somebody told me that they've been hearing my underdog ad everywhere. Like the playoff underdog commercial, the ad read that I do. Apparently it's everywhere. It's big. It's blowing up. Town's talking, Pete. Town is buzzing about it.
Well, the nation is talking about it, from what I understand.
If you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button. If you happen to be listening on Spotify, they now have started doing ratings. So give us a 5-star rating on Spotify. Of course, thank you to anyone listening or watching, regardless of what platform you're using. I was the only person above 500 last week, continuing my scorching hot streak to close the season.
Is 2-2 above 500?
No.
What was your record last week?
I was 4-3.
Oh.
RJ was 2-2. Pete was 2-4.
I was in the toilet. I was in the toilet.
I think RJ won the regular season percentage-wise. Pete had the most victories. RJ 58 and 48, Pete 59 and 54, me 56 and 62. Stinky. The parlay lost. Falcons. Falcons were trash. Bucks and WFT. WFT was a stone cold lock. Easiest bet of the weekend. Let's get into some. You guys want to do some wild card picks?
Let's go.
No, I want to do some super wild card picks.
Yeah. Now you got me excited. I wasn't excited before, but now you've got me excited. We'll start with the Saturday afternoon game. I mentioned John Breach, the Cincinnati Bengals, winless in the playoffs since 1991. They have gotten the best possible draw imaginable. They get the warm weather Raiders and Derek Carr. A really cool story, to be honest. Headed to Cincinnati. This line opened at 6. It has dropped down to 5. We are picking it at 5.5. Raiders at the Bengals. Bengals minus 5.5. Over under 49. Pete, I know that you have been doing office hours, making calls, grinding on tape, and looking at the previous matchup between these two teams. What did you see?
The Raiders' defensive line dominated them. They really did. And that score isn't indicative of how much they dominated them. They blitzed twice in the game, and they pressured them on, I think, 20-something% of the snaps. They got after him, and the tape showed it. Now they have Isaiah Prince playing at right tackle with Reef out, and that's even more of a problem. So I think it's going to be imperative that Cincinnati runs the football, which I think they will do. I think they're going to try and control clock. On the flip side, the Bengals defensive line can get after the quarterback too, particularly off that right side, which is terrible. So look for a big day from Hubbard, I think, maybe more so than Hendrickson. And I just think this is a game that's going to be a lower scoring game than people think. And I'm going to take the points because I think there's going to be a turnover or two to keep the Raiders within the number. So I think the Bengals win the game and move on, but I think the Raiders hang around in this one.
The Bengals offense had 1,050 yards in their last two competitive games. That's more than Vegas had in any 3-game stretch over the last 6 weeks. Vegas offense averaged 16 points in 5 games prior to Sunday. That's not going to cut it against Cincy if that's what they're scoring. The defense gave up at least 30 points 5 times in the second half of the season. Their remarkable run to make the postseason that involved edging out several limited offenses, and the Bengals definitely do not have a limited offense. I know that the matchups probably favor the Raiders, considering they don't need to blitz here, and the defense did well against Cincy in the first game, despite the score, like you said. I think the Bengals controlled that game regardless. They were going to win that game. They just weren't going to win it by a blowout, and that's what the final score indicated. This line is coming down. I was leaning toward the Bengals. I was going to make the Bengals the best bet. Since it's coming down, the sharps seem to be on the Raiders. I'm just making it a lean on the Bengals. If it gets any lower, I see some 4.5s out there, then I would be looking to play the Bengals at 4.5.
Yeah, I like the Bengals here. And I get it. The Raiders kept it close before. Max Crosby, incredible game against Storm Norton. I mean, just a bullying of Norton over there on the right side against the Chargers. And if he does that against the Bengals, it will make life tough for Joe Burrow. However, I tend to think that the Bengals have a pretty massive advantage when it comes to the weather here. I mean, Derek Carr maybe has covered or won his last 2 starts, but generally, like, he is not good in cold weather. I mean, he just doesn't play in cold weather. He went to Fresno State from California, plays for the Raiders, doesn't see a lot of cold weather. It's going to be really cold, potential snow, nasty weather in Cincinnati. And Joe Burrow's from Ohio. He's used to this. He is a cold weather. He's fine with cold weather. And more importantly, he freaking loves big games. This guy just dominates when it's clutch time. He had 950 passing yards, 12 touchdowns, 0 picks, 2 rushing touchdowns in 2 college football playoff games. I know it's not the same as an NFL playoff game, but Derek Carr's new to this too. So I can't, I'm not worried particularly about how the pressure might affect Joe Burrow. I think it's more likely to affect Derek Carr. And, as RJ said, they haven't, no snow anymore in the forecast. Thank you, Mel, in the YouTube chat. Just cold. Still cold, Cincinnati in middle of January. Not ideal for Derek Carr. I'm going to make the Bengals the best bet here. I'm tempted. I know you got that up, Debo. What is the go to the home tab, please, if you will, and just see what the
27.5, I believe.
27.5 for the Bengals.
Yeah, I was looking at it earlier for props. When I put my props article in for Sportsline, I said Evan McPherson over 2.5 extra points, because if they're going to get to 27, 28 points, you got to figure he's making 3 extra points.
Yeah, so 27.5 total points. That's a lot. You're basically asking, are you going to score 4 touchdowns or not? What's the total? What's the touchdown total there? Scroll down just a touch. That's interesting. 3.5 touchdowns over plus 145 versus over 27.5 points plus 100.
Yeah, because you can get to 27 with the field goals, so it's 3 touchdowns, 2 field goals. And that's kind of, I think since that 27.5 shaded to the under, that's kind of what people are thinking right now. 27.
Yeah, that checks out. All right. Yes. Forget that. I'm just going to take the Bengals minus 5.5 or 5, whatever. I get that the line movement is definitely scary. Don't care. Joe, I'm backing Joe Burrow as often as I can in these big spots. I got a ton of Joe Burrow exposure in underdog on best ball playoff stuff too. I just think we're going to get just an incredible performance from Burrow. Pete, I mean, Pete said it. Yeah, Pete predicted the Super Bowl. I just think we get a big performance from Burrow. That's all. And I want to back Burrow.
Speaking of line movement, I didn't put in any best bets for this game. I was going to put in Darren Waller over 59.5 receiving yards. It ticked down to 58.5. So apparently the people that are in on this early, who I trust more than myself, are on the under on that. So I didn't want to put it in as the best bet. He only had 2 receptions in his return last week. He was targeted 9 times, and the Bengals allowed the 5th most receiving yards to tight ends in the league. And I think in the playoffs, you want to lean on your best weapon, and he's their best weapon. So I just think he's going to get a ton of targets. If he's getting double-digit targets, he feels like he's going to get to 60 yards. So I almost put that in as a best bet, but because it started moving the other way on me, I decided to just make it a lean.
You don't get scared of that sharp movement, RJ. There is I want to see what is the number of carries for these guys. Ooh, Josh Jacobs. Mixon is 19.5. Jacobs is 16.5. I'm kind of intrigued by Josh Jacobs over rushing attempts. I think the Raiders could very well try to lean on him to take the pressure off of Derek Carr. I think that's jumped up a little bit. Might have been 15.5 before. So tempted by total over rushing attempts for Josh Jacobs. 85.5 rush receiving yards, probably too much.
What's Mixon there? What's Mixon's rushing total number?
76.5.
70s.
Oh, he's going over that. He's going over that.
Yeah. I like that.
19.5. I believe he's only been 20 carries like 3 times this year and only twice since week 2. So that would seem like a little bit of a high number to me. I like his receiving yards number. You figure the coverage will focus on taking away Chase because he's been so dominant the last few weeks. But Mixon has, been kind of unlocked as a receiver. He had his most targets and receptions in that last game against the Chiefs before they sat everyone. And then he had his most receiving yards the week before against the Ravens. So it just seems like he's going to be involved more. And the number, I believe, is only like 18.5 on receiving yards. So if that continues, he should get to 20 yards, I think.
Yeah, and that's interesting too because all season long, Mixon has not been used as a receiver. They've had Samaje Perine in there on third downs and in passing situations. To your point, RJ, I wonder if the last 2 weeks, as they when it's time to get, do you want to make the playoffs? What do? You lean on Joe Mixon, use him as a receiver. You sort of wonder if that usage with Samaje Perine might drop off once they get to the playoffs. So they're like, you know what? We're in the postseason. We are going all in on Joe Mixon instead of trying to rotate Samaje Perine in there. If that is the case, then yeah, the receiving yards for Mixon at 18.5 looks real good, as does, they don't have receptions for him though. Okay. Anyway, I like that receiving yards too. All right, let's move on. We got to make sure we get a full hour with Pete here, by the way.
No, let's move on.
Patriots at the Bills. Saturday night on CBS. The Bills are favored by 4 with an over-under of 44. We will not be getting 70 mile per hour wind, Pete, but it is expected to be cold and pretty nasty in Buffalo.
Believe me, first thing I did when this game was decided to be on, I looked at the wind. I hate wind. I hate it. It ruins football. I hate it. That's cold, not so much. Wind ruins it. This isn't going to be ruined by this. This was a tough game for me because of the Patriots and how they play. Here's what I came down to for me. The Patriots always take away what you do best. You can't take away Josh Allen. He does too many things. He can run. He can get outside. They play man outside. He's going to turn. They're going to turn it back. He's going to turn them into running plays and turn them into big plays. I think Buffalo will handle them. And here's the other thing. Mac Jones, 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions on the road. He hasn't been the same player on the road. The run defense has been better since that debacle in the wind. I think they're going to play much better in this one. I'll take Buffalo minus the points.
I was leaning to Buffalo as well. Their defense hasn't fallen apart after losing Trey White. And this isn't a matchup where he'd be critical to the success either, where you need to take away top receivers. I worry about the pass offenses in the extreme cold, making it harder to catch the ball if people can't keep their hands warm. What do you think about that, Pete? Yeah,
look, if it's bitter cold, yeah, you can have trouble catching the ball. But I think the way these gloves are nowadays, my God, they stick to them. So it's not nearly as it used to be.
Did you see what Diggs said? He said Josh Allen needs to start taking some zip off the ball when it gets cold because it's too hard to catch the passes.
One thing about his short passes, when he throws those short passes in the cold, I wouldn't want to be catching that.
Oh, God.
Catching with my teeth.
I saw a friend of the program and great football mind, Mina Kimes, had a tweet. It was like, what's your weirdest or what's your most bizarre take that you believe is real? And she's like, the Bills need to build a dome so they can unlock Josh Allen. And because, the argument generally is that, Josh Allen is an advantage for Buffalo because, he can throw through the wind. But I think she might be onto something with the idea that, if he wasn't having to throw in the wind, it's not an advantage for, if Josh Allen is, the throwing through the wind is great, but it would be even better if he didn't have to throw through the wind. RJ, as a Bills fan, do you want dome Josh Allen or non-dome Josh Allen?
I think having the dome takes away something about playing football in Buffalo, but
sure.
I don't have to go to those games, so that's easy for me to say. But I'm sure the players would appreciate being able to play in a dome and not have to play outside. So Pete talked about taking away what Buffalo does best, and everybody would assume that is the passing game we're talking about now. Buffalo's rushed offense has 403 yards in their last 2 games, and Devin Singletary's really stepped up in the last few weeks. So with them better running the ball and defending the run than New England, and Josh Allen being better than Mac Jones, and Isaiah Wynn didn't practice at the beginning of the week, I think it's really like, does New England pass defense and their coaching make up the difference that Buffalo has the edge, I think, everywhere else? And I would lean no. That's why I'm leaning to Buffalo -4, like Pete. Even with Allen struggling at times, Buffalo has 27+ points in every non-win game since week 12, throwing out that New England game. So I think it ends up something like, 24-17 to me, and the Bills win. My best bet is Mac Jones under 201.5 passing yards. Buffalo's defense is number 1 in pass yards allowed to quarterbacks by nearly 400 yards. There's no one really close to them. And Mac had just 140 yards on 14 of 32 passing in that non-win game. So we get something similar here. He's going to come in well under. And like I said earlier, the extreme cold conditions make me think the running is going to be more of a priority and drops are more likely, because even with the good gloves, single-digit weather in Buffalo does not sound like a fun time for these receivers. So I would go Mac Jones under 201.5 passing yards.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
I like that one, RJ.
Yeah. The only downside would be is if Buffalo builds a lead and they're forced to chuck it around, but even then he might not get there, turnovers and whatnot. I saw somebody had a galaxy brain hot take that was like, if Mac Jones struggles, should we see Brian Hoyer against Buffalo? I mean, no, right?
What?
Yeah, I don't
No.
know. Okay, just making sure.
No.
Yeah, and you can see with RJ on that number, 201.5, the under juiced to -135. I would bet that number keeps ticking down. Pretty low number for Josh Allen too, 241.5. That is extremely low for a quarterback of his talents with those receivers, even against.
What's his rushing number?
Debo all over it. Josh Allen. Oh, they don't have Josh Allen's rushing yards. They have Mac Jones rushing yards. It may be because
they don't have everything up yet, I don't think. With the Buffalo offense.
That's weird that they wouldn't have. I mean, what are they waiting on? Like Zach Moss?
I don't know.
I actually think I was looking at this. We'll talk about it a little bit, but most rushing yards wild card weekend. Devin Singletary, 12-1. We'll get into that a little bit later, but I think that's an interesting number. I want to believe that that the Patriots will win and that they will beat the Bills. It feels like one of those takes that I'm sort of wish casting it though. And that Buffalo is, as you point out, RJ, just a better team with a inferior coach, albeit one who is not bad. And I mean, the beating they put on New England, incredible game from Josh Allen in New England to basically take the division, just lingers in my mind. It's hard to get over that. I do think New England will keep it close enough where they'll cover, but it's not a best bet for me. I will, however, go full-blown contrarian here and take the over as a best bet. That number's ticked up. I think we see some explosive plays in the run game, and maybe some. I know it flies in the face of what you would expect, but if we were to believe that this is truly a really low scoring Pats Bills, January playoff game, that number should be 41, not 44. So I will take the over, but I would prefer, if you were betting it for putting a wager in purposes, to wait as long as possible, because I don't think it'll keep going up. I think it'll come down maybe on game day if we start seeing shots on the NFL Today about where we're seeing all these different cold scenarios, like heaters, like they're trotting out, they're doing like features on how freaking cold it is. That number will come down. So wait on that, I think. All right, Eagles at Bucks -8.5, over under 46. Pete, does this qualify as a Tom Brady revenge game?
Why?
Because the Eagles, no, it doesn't really, but because the Eagles beat him in the Super Bowl. He beat them.
No. Didn't he have that one earlier in the year when he played him in the regular season?
He already beat him in the regular season.
Yeah, they beat him earlier in the year, and that game probably wasn't as close as the score. Remember, that was the game where they didn't run the ball on a Thursday night, and everybody complained and moaned. The fans were booing. And ever since then, all they've done is run the ball, and they've run it well. They're the best rushing team in the league. Tampa Bay's got a really good run defense against conventional running teams. This is not a conventional running team. And by the way, the Bucs have given up, I think it's 14 or 15 more yards per game over the course of the last 3 than their season average, which is very telling. They're having problems with the run. I know they're getting some guys back, but I think they're going to have issues with this run game. I think the Eagles are going to use the run game to keep it within the number. And we don't know what the Bucs are like offensively without those weapons, without Godwin there. And Evans is still dinged a little bit, I think. And then you look at no Antonio Brown. Yeah, we saw him in the regular season. Let's see how they do in the postseason. So I think the Eagles stay within the number. I'm going to make the Eagles the best bet.
And the Tampa rush defense hasn't been as dominant as advertised. People don't run on them because they're scared of them. So they face the fewest amount of rushes, but they're 12th in DVOA against the rush, 15th in yards per rush allowed. So it's not like they're, this elite team, defending the run when you actually do run it against them. And Philly has shown that they will run it against anyone. They don't care if you're a good rush defense or not. And they've had success doing that. Tampa Bay dominated that first matchup despite the final score. Like you said, that was pre the Philly offense evolution. And this is going to be a different beast facing them here. I have the Eagles as a best bet as well. My only issue is they have one win versus a team with a winning record, and that team didn't make the playoffs. That was the Saints. But the Bucs did struggle against the Saints and the Jets lately. They had handled the Panthers, but everybody handles the Panthers at this point. Tampa's receivers down to Evans, plus good luck after that, Perryman and guys like that. Probably not going to matter with Brady at quarterback, but you never know. It's going to be a windy day, it looks like, and it could be a rainy day. And I think that favors how Philly plays offense as well, keeping this a closer game. So I think Philly can turn it into a lower scoring trenches game, get the cover here at plus 8.5. So I have that as a best bet. I also have Gronk over 56.5 receiving yards as a best bet. Got 10 targets with 7 catches and 100 plus yards in each of the last 2 games with Tampa losing those receivers. Philly is 6th in yards allowed to tight ends and 1st in touchdowns allowed. So check those Gronk touchdown props. They weren't up when I looked in terms of player touchdown props, but I think he's going to be good value on those as well.
I like that. The Gronk touchdown prop. They're not up yet either, because I was going to ask about a Leonard Fournette touchdown prop. I've got Lenny. I mean, we're talking about, let's not forget, this is playoff Lenny we're talking about here. This is not regular season Lenny. This is Lombardi Lenny, self-proclaimed Lombardi Lenny. And if you look at his receiving yards, that is extremely intriguing to me. The 63.5 rush yards, I don't mind either, but I think and I do like the over under 100 total yards or 100.5 total yards, but 33.5 over receiving yards. I mean, I get that that's probably right on line with what he's done this season. Probably topped it, I think, like half of the time. But if you look at his playoff run last year, he went over that number in 3 of 4 of the games that the Buccaneers played, 39, 44, 19, and 46. And even in that game where he had 19 receiving yards, he had 5 receptions. So this is a guy that they've, was dinged up with a hamstring, is brought back now, and that the Bucs love to use in the receiving game when in the postseason when he's healthy. And I think they held him out because they knew they had Rojo, they knew they had Keyshawn Vaughn. They felt like they could, get by with Leonard Fournette and let him get healthy because of how key he is to their playoff run, which is just crazy to think that, this is a guy that, the Jags took over to Sean Watson, and now he's like the key to unlocking Tom Brady's postseason run. So I love all Lenny props, anytime touchdown. RJ, what do you think Gronk and Lenny anytime touchdown will be?
It's hard to say. I would say as a running back, Fournette is probably going to be close to even, maybe even a little over. You're getting minus odds. Gronk will be a little bit on the plus side, I would think, plus 105, plus 110, just because he's been such a dominant force the last few weeks. And typically we'd see him a lot higher than that. But I just don't know who else are going to throw it to down in the red zone besides him and Mike Evans.
Do we want to let me and you take touchdown bets? Like, no. Can I take Leonard Fournette anytime touchdown at minus 125 or better?
If you can find the book with it. I wouldn't trust my hypothetical odds.
Pete, will you
give
me
the bookmaker? RJ, you taking action this week?
I am not.
I mean, I would like to make anytime Leonard Fournette touchdown a bet, but I won't if that's not.
No, there's no odds on it. Can't have it.
Ooh. All right. I'll just take Leonard Fournette over 33.5 receiving.
Unless RJ's little bookie shop he has in the back there behind in the deli.
I'm sure I can find it on some other site. I'm sure I'd be fine taking it, but just randomly taking it and assigning hypothetical odds, I don't think we should do.
That's fine. Whatever. Leonard Fournette.
It's minus
anytime
minus
score
150.
minus 150. Wow. That's a bit steep. Gronk minus 105. Mike Evans minus 110. Man. All right, I'll pass on anytime touchdown scorer. I will take over 33.5 receiving yards. I actually think the Bucs could blow out the Eagles.
I would be fine playing Gronk minus 105. I'm not going to take it for us, but just, for the listeners, I think Gronk anywhere around even is good.
Okay. Debo, would you like to chime in on the fact that 2 of 3 of the podcast members, the professional expert podcast football pickers, have chosen your Eagles against the spread?
I'm just happy that it's at least at this point not part of the parlay, and that it's not a 3-person consensus, because that would be bad news for me.
That's it. All right, I'm willing to.
What else is bad news?
I've decided to make the Eagles a best bet. Give me the Eagles plus 8.5. Let's put it in the parlay, baby.
Well, here's the other thing. If they win, you don't want Debo crying again. We don't need to see
up high, down hard.
There won't be tears after a super wild card win. Maybe a super divisional round win.
You make Stetson Bennett look like he had dry eyes.
I like Pete coming on just dunking. Debo actually referenced that Pete, do you know what jersey Debo was wearing when he was weeping openly and publicly and filming himself weeping after the Eagles beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl?
I'm trying to remember.
Pete, I'll give you a hint. It was a first-round pick from the 1990s. A notable first-round pick for the team.
That's just...
he excelled at the NFL Combine.
Big Combine guy.
Oh, Mike Mamula?
Yeah, that's right. Good guess. I mean, it's an easy guess once you say Combine. Yes. Debo will be wearing his...
that thing probably has you probably had to take it to the dry cleaner about 12 times to get all those tears off of it.
Salty discharge.
Salty tears. It's like all mangy.
Looks like he's been
eating crying. There's no crying in football, Debo. You can't cry over victories and losses.
Pete, it was their first Super Bowl. I'm crying.
I don't care if it was the first Super Bowl they've won in 500 years. You can't cry.
I cried. I don't regret it.
Don't you wish Pete was your father, Debo?
He probably cried too if you raised him.
I checked another book on the touchdown props. I got Fournette minus 135 at another book and Gronk plus 125. So if you can get, and I think somebody in the chat mentioned Gronk at plus 130. If you get kind of plus 125, plus 130, I would run and grab that on Gronk now.
Yeah, I see. If you see, I like Fournette. Gronk plus 130. I love Fournette anytime touchdown minus 125. I would absolutely bet as well. So take that for what it's worth. All right, moving along. Eagles are part of the parlay, though. Just despite Debo. 49ers at the Cowboys. Slime time, baby. This game is on CBS as well. Also on Paramount Plus and on Nickelodeon. Pete, I know you'll be watching the Nickelodeon version to see who gets slimed first, Jimmy Garoppolo or Mike McCarthy. I know that this innovative television experience, watching slime splash all over your television, is exactly what you want when you're watching football. Cowboys -3, over under 51. Also, over under number of times that Pete complains about people tweeting about the slime game is set at 4.5.
No, look, you enjoy the game any way you want to. But I'm going to enjoy the game like I normally do.
Would you say that if it was on Fox?
No, do what you want to do. I don't care where you watch it. I watch different games.
I saw some odds they're putting will Pete Prisco watch the Nickelodeon broadcast of the game or the regular broadcast of the game. Nickelodeon was at, I think, plus 10,000, 100 to 1.
Yeah, 5 million to 1.
I don't have children and I never have children. I promise you I won't be watching the Nickelodeon one. But if you have kids, you should let your kids watch it. I think it's a good thing for them. Maybe you'll get, grow up and to be good fans. See, when I was a kid and I was that age, I would have watched the real broadcast because I was playing pro draft and picking my teams and everything else and playing every football game imaginable. But there's a lot of kids who aren't football fans yet. So try and draw them in. I get it. I understand it. I'll be watching it on the conventional broadcast, and I can't wait to watch it because this is one of my favorite picks, by the way. I love the 49ers. I think the 49ers are going in and winning. They're not just going to cover the number. They win the game outright. I love San Francisco. I think their defense, and I'm going to send out we did spinning top of the week, and the Rams offensive line was spinning top of the week, and our guys put it together in the film room there when I gave them the plays. I'm going to send that out on Twitter. You cannot believe how bad how good the 49ers defensive line was and how bad the Rams offensive line was, they dominated. I think they're going to be able to dominate here. I think they're going to limit the Cowboys in the run game. I think they're going to get after Dak Prescott. And I think offensively, if we go back to the Broncos game, what did the Broncos do? They rammed it down their throat. And I think that's what they're going to do in this game. The Cowboys are a little defense. They have problems with teams that run the football. I love the 49ers here. Give me the 49ers plus the 3. I also got them in as a teaser, so I'll take the 9 as well.
Yeah, I wanted to put the 49ers in as a best bet. It's just because of the juice, it looks like it might tip to 3.5. I'm waiting and hoping that we can get 3.5 at some point before I get that in, because I love the 49ers as well. They played well down the stretch after getting healthy. 7-2 with 3 wins over playoff teams. Their defense has held 4 straight opponents under 300 net yards. Only one of the last 9 opponents has had 100 rushing yards, so I don't think we're going to set up for a good day for Zeke Elliott here. Dallas beat up on bad or not trying NFC East teams down the stretch. They're probably not as good as they look, scoring 56 points against these teams. It'll be up to the Dallas defense to create turnovers here, because I think San Fran should be able to move the ball. I think these are probably pretty even teams, and because home field isn't worth 3 to me, I think there's a value with San Fran at plus 3. But like I said, get it at plus 3.5. Key might also be Trent Williams. He missed week 18. If he's out, that Dallas pass rush could run a little bit more wild and make things tougher for Jimmy G. So I'm just a lean on San Fran, hoping we get a better number. My best bet for this game is my MVP of the game, Deebo Samuel, going over 28.5 rushing yards. He went over this number in all but one game since his role changed back in week 10. And Shanahan should want to establish him as a runner early to slow down the pass rush, and keep the Dallas pass rush thinking, we got to cover this guy coming out of the backfield. We can't get too much over, go after Jimmy G as much as we want to. So I think he goes over this number, and he's named the second MVP ever, and joins a heralded list with Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah, that's a kind of a low number, 28.5. Do you think it's because is it because Kyle Shanahan sort of phased him out a little bit, or is it just an average? What's the deal with that prop?
It's slightly less. He's had a few like right around 30, just a slightly over 30. So I think they're playing for Dallas will scheme to take him away because he's their best weapon. And, San Fran will have to respond in a game where San Fran isn't expected to be running away with this one like they were maybe some of the other games they played. Like I said, 7-2 in their last 9. So if the game plan or if the game script is San Fran is behind, they probably have to throw more. So that might be one reason why this number is a little lower. But, he's been doing this almost every week, like I said. So I think he gets there.
And I had heard fairly, as I understand it, I think that there are people that are hammering Dallas right now. That's why you see that juice sort of moving. Obviously, the books don't really want to make it 3.5 because that's a lot more attractive to people who like San Francisco. I love San Francisco. I picked him to win the Super Bowl before the season. Trent Williams needs to be healthy here. Need to get him back. I expect him to be back, though. I think he sat out that week 18 game, even though it was a must-win game, knowing that they could get into the play. They had multiple outs to get into the playoffs. If he's back, this should be a dominant rushing performance from the 49ers. I'm curious, Pete. This is not a revenge question. I'm legitimately curious if you think there is because Kyle Shanahan and Dan Quinn worked together in Atlanta. Do you think that matters at all from a sort of game planning? You know what guys like to do. Is there an advantage built in there?
Well, Dan Quinn's actually changed the way he plays defense.
Yeah, it's more man than the cover 3.
Yeah,
right?
It's not the same as it used to be. So it's hard to, you can't really gauge that. I do know this much. If the 49ers have the ball late and they're winning by 6, I bet they don't throw it if they're in the inside field goal range.
Yeah.
And Dan Quinn would be like, throw it. You did me once, now throw it again. No.
Throw it to Trevon Diggs, damn it.
Kyle Shanahan is a great coach when it comes to scheming things up and doing the right things. And I think sometimes in his career, his arrogance got the best of him, and that was one of those moments. But I think he's fantastic at what he does.
Yeah, the Cowboys defense has been a revelation, and Dan Quinn's done a great job. But this 49ers offense, when it's cooking at maximum juice, is really tough to stop when you're running Deebo on the jet sweeps. And
by the way, just an FYI, because I know he's a hot name out there on the Mike McDaniel. I had a really nice conversation at this combine one year with Mike McDaniel about why they should have run the ball 3 times and kicked the field goal. and he tried to play the analytics game with me and this and that and everything else. So
I bet that went well.
I'm 1-0 on Mike McDaniel.
I like old Mike McDaniel.
I do too. Mike's smart, man. He's a bright kid. He's smart. I'm impressed with Mike McDaniel and Kyle Shanahan. I love the way they play. I'm telling you, if I was running an offense, I'd put that offense in.
Oh, yeah. Do you think there's any chance Mike McDaniel leaves for a head coaching job? I mean, he's still pretty young, right? I mean, don't get me wrong.
He's young. I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but the fact that he's getting in the mix is a good thing for Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel's smart, man.
I'm just saying, like, I don't know if Mike McDaniel needs to take the Giants job, is what I'm saying. Like,
you get an opportunity to take a job, you take the job.
Okay. I mean,
you take the job, and I'm going to go in there and I'm going to fix it. That's my mentality. I want it. Give me your job. I want it. I want the job. I'm going to fix your team.
I
can't do any worse.
Yeah, actually, I do want the Giants job. I take that back.
Of all the jobs, what's the most attractive job?
I ranked the Jaguars as the most attractive again.
It is the most attractive job
because of Trevor Lawrence.
You got the quarterback, and you got draft capital, and you got the most money to spend. It's by far the most attractive job. It's not a legacy franchise like the Giants or the Bears. But there's
also the media. I mean, like the Jacksonville media for years has just been soft. I mean, just a bunch of old, like tan, retirees down there covering.
I know who wasn't soft. Ask Tom Coughlin if I was soft.
Hey, let me ask you this. I heard there's a rumor. I don't know if I know that you know these teams pretty well, but I heard a rumor that Byron Leftwich, if he got a head coaching job, would want Adrian Wilson, former NC State standout and Cardinals standout and VP of pro personnel with the Cardinals as his GM. Have you heard anything to that?
And vice versa.
So if Wilson gets a job, he wants Leftwich.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
Ooh.
And I've known both those guys for a long
Jacksonville
time.
Just get rid of Trent Baalke and get those guys in there.
They should.
Oh my
I've
God,
known both
that'd be
those guys
a
a
great
long time. I don't know if Byron wants to go back to Jacksonville. He had bad experience there. The fans were brutal on him. I mean, brutal.
Oh, that's true.
It was not a good look. But I think Byron's going to be a great coach. I think Adrian Wilson's going to be really good as a personnel guy. I mean, he's rocking. I've known Adrian for years. I got this. I'm going to fess up on something I did. I think I told you this story though, Brinson. Years ago, we had the Pro Bowl team released to us before it was announced, and I called him and told him because I knew him for years. And he goes, I can't. I go, you can't tell anybody. He said, can I tell my mom? I go, you can tell your mom.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, so he got in. He was the first one?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So you called him and you're like, hey, like just FYI.
Yeah.
I bet he was pumped. Yeah.
Yeah, he was great. He's one of my favorite guys who've been around with me.
RJ, are you on the Niners too, or are we not putting the Niners in the parlay?
Yeah, I like the Niners. I think we're going to get a better number. So that's why I didn't put it as a best bet. But if you want to take it at 3, if you guys really like it, I'm fine throwing that in.
All right. So we got Eagles. Eagles plus 8.5, Niners plus 3. I love some NFC dogs barking here.
I'm barking this weekend, by the way. I'm doing a lot of barking.
I just got to run over and take the Cowboys on sports line before it moves up to 3.5 now that we have it in the parlay.
That's right. Yeah. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, Ben Roethlisberger sandbagging once again. Will it work in the playoffs? We'll tell you next. Steelers at the Chiefs. The Chiefs are minus 12.5. This is ticked down a full point, over under 46.5. Let me find this Ben Roethlisberger quote. It was something to the effect of, he said, we don't have a chance. I would assume as a group, you understand, he's talking to reporters. This is via Brooke Pryor. Love Brooke Pryor of ESPN. I would assume as a group, you understand that we probably aren't supposed to be here. We probably are not a very good football team. Out of 14 teams I think are in, we're probably number 14. We're probably a 20-point underdogs, and we're going to the number 1 seed, the number 1 team. I know they're not the number 1 seed, obviously, but they're the number 1 team that has won the AFC the last 2 years, arguably the best team in football. We don't have a chance, so let's just go in and play and have fun. Oh man, I am having a hard time.
Woe is me. Give me a break.
When Ben starts doing this, he's due for some sort of magical bin game that you just didn't think he had in that crusty old pillow of a body. What do you think, Pete?
it's not as crusty and pillowish as it used to be. He's got in better shape.
Oh, remember before the season when it was leaked out, it's like Ben's on a better diet than Tom Brady.
Yeah, I don't think so. But you know, the helium balloon he threw for the first down on 4th down last week was amazing. It was in the air for about 6 weeks.
I was arguing that like defenses couldn't catch up to Ben because it's like he's going the passes are too slow. So defensive backs are like they're not used to it. They're moving so slow.
But he stood in there. He had Calais Campbell in his face. You got to give him. That's one thing about Ben Roethlisberger. He'll stare down the barrel, man. He ain't gonna back away from it. I love that about him, and he never has. I think the Steelers are at play here. I think they're going to go in there and play hard and tough. I really do. Mike Tomlin's too good a coach. They'll be ready for this. And here's the other thing. The Steelers' number one weakness all year has been against the run. The Chiefs, if they run the ball, then you're beating them already in terms of strategy. You want them running the ball. So go ahead, run the ball. And I think that's going to hurt the Chiefs if they do that. And they've been reluctant to do it a lot of the time too. So I think Pittsburgh's going to play hard, tough, physical, hang around in the game. They're not going to win the game, but they're going to hang around in this game. I know it was a couple weeks ago they got blown out, but they had some guys out there, and I think they're going to be better in this one. I'll take Pittsburgh in the points here.
Yeah, the Chiefs defense has not looked great the last few weeks after seemingly getting it together mid-season. They gave up 190 plus rush yards to the Chargers and the Broncos, 415 pass yards to the Bengals. So these teams are kind of doing what they want to do against this defense. And KC dominated Pittsburgh in week 16, like you said. They generated 3 turnovers in that game. So if they're able to do that again, it might be a runaway here. But if Steelers protect the ball, I mean, we've seen crazier things. You just don't see these lines this big in the playoffs. And when you do, it seems like just as often you get an upset as you do a cover. You know, you get like Beastquake, I think was a 10 or 11 point game in that one. So the Chiefs offense has been willing to run the ball down the stretch a little more, and the Steelers defense is 32nd in yards per rush allowed. I wanted to go with Edwards-Helaire over. I just don't know how much they lean on him. So I think the Chiefs running game will do well in this game, but I couldn't play the Edwards-Helaire prop because I don't know if it's going to be necessarily him for 15 carries or whether he's splitting time with Williams. So I can't take Chiefs laying this many points knowing what happens in the playoffs. So I would lean Pittsburgh plus 12.5, but considering how that offense has looked, I'm not in a rush to play it. Juju Smith-Schuster was designated to return off the injured reserve. So I guess there's a chance that we see him in this game. That would be at least some kind of help for that offense, you know, giving them another receiving game weapon. So we'll see if he can come back in this game, but I'm like Pete, I'm leaning to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I lean towards Pittsburgh as well. Look, I'll be perfectly honest. I thought I may have even picked the Chiefs on the site, but I'm going to change it because when Big Ben says something like, I mean, I'm telling you, you can just bet on the Steelers if you listen to what Big Ben is saying publicly or leaking out. Everyone thinks the Chiefs are going to roll them. These teams played earlier in the year. The Chiefs absolutely slaughtered the Steelers. Pittsburgh has looked terrible for most of the year. They are probably the worst playoff team. Maybe, I guess you could argue the Raiders, but I mean, no one wants to bet on the Steelers or Big Ben, and I don't blame them. But when Ben comes out and says we don't have a chance, I guess we'll just go have fun and play. Ben is going to have an epic Ben game. He's going to play awesome, and the Steelers might win. I'm telling you, man.
They're not going to win.
They might win. They keep it within a touchdown.
On the money line. Put them in the money line, man. Money line parlay. Ready? Steelers, 49ers, Eagles.
Woo! Man, you're getting – don't do that to Debo. Let's see. 310 for the Eagles, plus 140 for the Niners, plus 550. That pays out 63 to 1. So just put a little hundo on it.
Yeah, go ahead. Do it. No.
Put our paychecks on it.
No.
I'm gonna bet it. Because I can't do it locally, but I can do it on a different site. We'll see what I get on here. Let's see. I got 320 for the Eagles, plus 135 for the Niners, plus 550 for the Steelers. 63 to 1. What should I put on it? 50?
Whatever. A 7 for Ben Roethlisberger.
$77 for bid.
Put 57.
57.
What will that pay?
That will pay $3,600. I mean, now I have to do it, obviously.
Yeah, if you win that, I'll be expecting $1,500 in the mail.
I will tip you out.
Or when I see you at the Super Bowl, I'll give you a $1,500 beat.
Well, I think you owe me $50 for the FFT league. So
no, I don't. Mine's paid.
Oh, you already paid. Oh, good. I wasn't even going to ask you because I knew that your response was going to be, why don't you can get it from me in the Super Bowl? So
Ron has mine. I'm paid up.
So it sounds like we're making Steelers the third leg of the parlay, right?
Right. I just bet that parlay.
Yeah.
Pretty easy parlay for everybody to remember. All the underdogs on the Sunday. We're just taking all 3 underdogs on Sunday, and that's our parlay.
All right. Sounds
Like
good.
it.
Perfect. Love it. So Steelers plus 12.5. And I think you want to get that now. I would guess it ticks down closer to 10 before it goes up to 14, like it'll probably end up sitting in that range. But I think I'm telling you, man, when Ben starts saying stuff like that, you better believe that he's not just going to show up
37-3 late in the game and Ben has 4 interceptions. We're going
and I'll be like, well, never mind that.
It's one of those fourth quarter comebacks to make it respectable. It'll be 37-3 with like 5 minutes left in the third quarter, and the game will end up 37-27, and we'll get a cover.
That's right. That is how Ben will pull it off too. Cardinals at the Rams, the final game Monday, super wild card weekend. Becomes super because you add a Monday night football game to it. The first ever, I believe, wild card weekend Monday night football game. Cardinals at the Rams. The Rams are -4 with a total of 49.5. Pete, this screams scoring points. Monday night football, prime time, NFC West. You taking the over, the under? What do you got here?
I can't wait until the NFL makes it super wild card week and they take one game on each day and just play it out.
I mean, wouldn't be surprised.
No, I like Arizona in this game. I think I really like the under. And in fact, Arizona is the second part of my teaser. I teased them. That's part of my teaser best bet. So I have Arizona along with San Francisco. But I like the under is a best bet. I think these two offensive lines are really struggling, both of them. And I told you about the Rams, but the Cardinals haven't been much better, and their offense has been dormant. Aside from the Cowboys game, they haven't been very good. And I think they're going to struggle in this game. And I think the Rams are going to struggle to move the football. A lot of those different looks that Rams offensive line, they can't handle them. The Cardinals went there and won earlier in the season. I know the Rams won at their place, but I think this is going to be a close game. But I'm going to take the Cardinals in the teaser as one of my best bets, close it out with the 49ers, and I'm going to take the under as the best bet. I think this is a low-scoring game.
I would lean to the Cardinals as well at +4. Both offenses don't look right. Stafford keeps throwing awful picks, and Arizona seems like they're missing Hopkins in addition to those line issues you were talking about. Arizona's offense is putting up yardage, though, before the Seattle game. They were averaging 400-plus yards in their previous 4 games. So they actually are moving the ball. They're just not putting the points on the board. Jordan Fuller is a big loss for the Rams defense. I can't see Eric Weddle coming off the couch and being competent and being what they need for this game. It seems too storybook to happen. I would figure Brinson would be all over again and name him the MVP of the playoffs or something. That seems like right up his narrative alley. But
MVP, Brinson valuable.
Brinson most valuable narrative. MVN most valuable narrative. Arizona's defense has also struggled since the bye. The 27.3 points per game allowed, including 30-23 loss to the Rams at home, which you were talking about. Turnovers have dried up for Arizona since that Week 13 Chicago game, but maybe Stafford can help there. It seems like he wants to throw a pick on his side of the field every game at this point. If we get that one bad pick on the Rams side of the field again, I think Arizona wins this game outright. I'm going to lean Arizona right now. I would also look to the Rams receiver touchdown props. I saw OBJ plus 140 at one site. Arizona's allowed 30 pass touchdowns. 27 have been to receivers. The next worst in the league was 23 and then 21. So they're pretty healthy margin above everyone else at giving up touchdowns to receivers. So I think Beckham gets a touchdown there. Getting him at decently plus odds is something you would like to do. But because it's such a big plus odd number, I'm not going to put it in as a best bet or anything. But I would encourage you to go take that.
The goons on social media love to come after Matthew Stafford, and just like you two, I know you two are itching for Stafford to throw a pick so you can laugh about it. Jared Stafford.
I like Stafford.
Everybody likes to be like Jared. Everybody likes to call Stafford Jared Goff, like a rich man.
Who, by the way, played better down the stretch than Matt Stafford did.
Jared Goff has played very well this year, actually. It's very surprising. Credit to Jared Goff for it. Look, Matthew Stafford 0-3 in the playoffs. That's going to come up a lot, I'm sure. Obviously only went to 3 playoff games, but I mean, his first 2 had over 300 yards playing with the Lions. They lost 28-45 to the Saints back in 2012, 20-24 to the Cowboys, tough loss in 2015. And then he laid a total egg in 2017 at Seattle, 26-6, a beatdown. No picks, no interceptions in that game. He does have, I think, 4 total turnovers in 3 playoff games, which is not ideal. He also has 4 touchdown passes, 2 fumbles, 3 picks, no, 5 total turnovers. I think he has a big game here. I think,
Of course you do. You think he's going to the Hall of Fame?
I think he is going to the Hall of Fame when he wins the Super Bowl this year. The line 4, stinky, begging you to take the Cardinals. The Cardinals team that struggled down the stretch. Stafford at least has playoff experience. Sean McVay has tons of playoff experience. Cliff Kingsbury, Kyler Murray, no playoff experience. I'm going to err on the side of experience and lean into my bias here for the Rams and for Matthew Stafford. Huge game for Stafford. I'll take over passing yards, over touchdown passes, and the Rams roll the Cardinals in this spot. That is my pick. Oh, good. Yeah, check the they don't have Stafford. Oh, please. 275.5 for Stafford. Over to the moon. I thought it was going to be like 290. Yeah, 275.5. Easy over. All right. Let's talk about some wild card props. So on Caesars currently, you can go to the schedule or whatever, the NFL schedule, and you can see most rushing yards for wild card weekend, most passing yards for wild card weekend, highest scoring team, lowest scoring team. You may not have it in front of you, but I will give you some quick numbers. Joe Mixon, the favorite at 5-1 for most rushing yards. Eli Mitchell, 6-1. Najee Harris, 7-1. You can see him now. Debo's got him putting him up on the screen as well. Josh Jacobs, 10. Damian Harris, 12. Leonard Fournette, 12. Zeke Elliott, Devin Singletary, 12. Ramondre Stevenson, 18. Sony Michel, Cam Akers, 20. Miles Sanders, 22. Darrell Williams, Jalen Hurts, Tony Pollard, Kyler Murray, James Conner, and Josh Allen, 25. Do any of those numbers intrigue you, Pete, when you think about somebody who might lead wildcard weekend in terms of rushing yards?
Joe Mixon.
At 5-1. I mean, he's the favorite, but I like the number. I mean, 5-1 is not bad for a favorite in that spot.
No, I like Joe Mixon. I think he's going to have a big day.
RJ, any thoughts on rushing yards?
Yeah, I was looking at either Devin Singletary or Leonard Fournette, both at 12-1, and I went with Fournette, playoff Lenny. Should get the bulk of the running back work, even in his first game off IR. Windy conditions and Bucs receiver situation, I think, needs plenty of rushing for Tampa. And if you do believe that it's going to be a Tampa cover type of game and they win running away, that also favors him having a big day. Fournette's 2 100-yard days came in the 3 games prior to his injury, so he was ramping up and looking like a big part of the rushing attack before he suffered that injury. So if they get back to that against the Eagles in what could be bad weather conditions, I think he has a good chance of putting up a 100-yard day and having a shot at this. I
agree with that analysis of Leonard Fournette completely. Devin Singletary I'll pick Devin Singletary for the sake of being different. New England is susceptible to the run, and the Bills have shifted the way that they utilize their running back. Singletary has sort of morphed into their feature back, and I think it's surprising given how they were sort of hesitant to let him be the guy down the stretch. They leaned on him big time. So I agree with you. I like Mixon too. And I think with Mixon particularly, you could get, if the Bengals blow out the Raiders and Mixon rushes for $150 on Saturday afternoon, it'd be it's sort of like a first round leader sweat where you get in the clubhouse with a big number and you get to sweat it out all weekend and through Monday. But I'll take Fournette and I like Fournette and Singletary is a little bit more longer shots. Most passing yards, Dak Prescott, Tom Brady 4-1, Patrick Mahomes plus 450, Stafford 6-1, Joe Burrow 7.5, Derek Carr, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray 14, Jimmy G 16, Big Ben 20, Jalen Hurts, Mac Jones 40-1. Any thoughts on most passing yards here, Pete?
What is Josh Allen's numbers?
He is 14-1 for most passing yards.
I would take him.
It's a good bet.
I mean, 14-1, the odds that's good odds for him.
Yeah. Maybe the best quarterback in the playoffs is 14-1. RJ.
Yeah, I thought about him too. I went with Kyler Murray at 14-1. Only 300-yard games since week 3 came against the Rams in week 14. He had 49 pass attempts, 383 yards. This feels like a game where he's going to have to throw a lot if the Rams are playing even decently well on offense. Rams allowed a 300-yard passer in 4 of their 7 games since the bye. The only ones they didn't were against Jacksonville, which of course you're not going to do that. Typically, Baltimore with Tyler Huntley, he didn't, and then Seattle with Russell Wilson before they kind of hit their stride at the end of the year. Perfect conditions for passing in SoFi. Obviously, it's not going to be the case for some of these outdoor games, which kind of leans me away from taking Allen and guys like Brady. So I think taking 14-1 in the indoor stadium here for Murray is the right way to go.
Yeah, I think an indoor look is probably the way to go. Jimmy G, and I know we all picked the 49ers, so this is kind of contrary to what we think will happen. If the Cowboys are able to get a lead and force the Niners into a game script that they don't want, I think it's possible that Jimmy Garoppolo is forced to throw the ball a ton. And if that happens, he could easily end up leading the league and leading wild card weekend in passing. So I don't hate 16-1. I like the Murray and Allen calls as well. All right, we'll get out of here with highest scoring team. Who scores the most points wild card weekend?
I have San Francisco plus 10, plus 1,000, 10-1. We like it's the highest total of the weekend in that game, and I think they have a real shot at winning the game, as we all said. Only other potential candidate for me is Arizona at 15-1. I thought was pretty decent value too, but San Fran is my pick at 10-1.
Who's going to be the highest scoring team in the weekend?
The Chiefs are the favorite, followed by the Bucks, Rams and Bengals around 5-1, Cowboys 8-1, Niners 10-1, Bills. Chiefs are plus 375.
They're the favorite, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't think they'd be the favorite. Who's in that 10-1 range with the RJs?
49ers 10, Bills 12, Cardinals 15, Raiders 22, Eagles 25, Pats 25, Steelers 40.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do any of them. I would take. I'll take. What's Buffalo? 10-1.
Buffalo is 12-1.
I don't think that game's going to score a lot of points, though. I'll take a flyer on the Raiders. How about that?
Ooh, 22-1 for the Raiders.
I don't think they're going to win the game, but the odds make me look at that one because just a flyer. I don't love.
I like the 49ers as well. Don't hate the Cardinals 15-1. Just don't take anything under 10-1. I mean, those are the favorites, but so you're expecting them to score. And then it's kind of inverse, right? The Steelers are 3-1 to be the lowest scoring team. Chiefs are 35-1. You're sort of picking. I mean, I don't really want to bet against any of these good offenses. Cardinals I was
going to ask you, what are the Rams and Cardinals? Because I think one of those is going to be lower scoring.
20-1 for the Rams, 8.5-1 for the Cardinals. That is.
I would take a flyer on the Rams.
Rams lowest scoring team in the wild card weekend, 20-1. All right,
take a flyer on the Rams. That's good odds.
How dare you, RJ? Your thoughts?
I was looking at Raiders plus 700. I know Pittsburgh's a favorite, but Kansas City defense taking a step back on the stretch, like I said. So I wouldn't be surprised if they scored a few more points than we thought. Vegas had, I think, averaging 16 points per game over their 5-game stretch before they lit up the Chargers. But that's a draining win, overtime win, emotional, quick turnaround. Offense mostly struggled in the second half of the year. So I could see a situation where they're only scoring, 13 points in that game. I don't think it's likely, but of these options, I think plus 700 for Vegas is probably the best value.
I can't take the Rams at 20-1. I like the Cowboys at 18-1. I think that'd be pretty crazy. Cowboys just lay a total egg. It seems almost impossible. So I mean, maybe don't bet it, but I don't know.
I mean, Bill's at 10-1, and crazier things have happened than Bill Belichick figuring out what we think is an elite offense and in the playoffs. So in a lower scoring, lower total. If Belichick shows up in that game and schemes something up, and Bill's going to run into that game with 9 points, like they have in the playoffs before.
Well, and I mean, you could see a situation where the Pats are just running the hell out of the ball, playing keep away, and Buffalo is unable to pass. I mean, heck, I mean, look, obviously no one wants a player to get hurt, but Josh Allen is going to run the ball a bunch probably in this game. Could take some shots. I don't see him getting hurt, but I don't hate the Bills at 10-1 either. All right, that's it for Wild Card Weekend with the best bets and our picks. As a reminder, the parlay is all of the underdogs on Sunday. So you got the Eagles plus 8.5, Steelers plus 12.5, Niners plus 3, and we have a $57 money line parlay on the 3 of them. If it hits, I mean, I'll still show up to the podcast because it's not that much money. But we will have a heated debate about how much I owe Pete Prisco for that parlay hitting. Pete will claim $1,500. I will generously give 5% to each of you if that parlay hits. And then you will have to debate whether or not I owe you more money and try and beat it out of me at the Super Bowl.
I'll tell you what, if that hits, whatever you owe me, you can give it to a charity. How about that?
Oh, I like it. Pete's picks, Pete's best bets. Raiders plus 5.5, Eagles plus 8.5, 49ers plus 3, Steelers plus 12.5, Cardinals, Rams under 49.5, and a teaser with the 49ers and the Cardinals. RJ's picks, best bets, Philly plus 8.5, Mac Jones under 201.5 passing yards, Gronk over 56.5 receiving yards, and Deebo Samuel over 28.5 rushing yards. Brinson's best bets. I have the Bengals minus 5.5. I guess I'm taking the Eagles too. Leonard Fournette over 33.5 receiving yards. 49ers. I'm putting 2 bets on the 49ers. I want 49ers plus 3 and 49ers money line. That's right. I also have a best bet on the Steelers plus 12.5. And that is all of my best bets, I think. You know what? I'm going to take the Rams too. Okay. So those are my best bets. Those are y'all's best bets. That's the show. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Smash that like button. Tell us in the comments what your favorite bet for the weekend is. Subscribe, rate, and review. For RJ and Pete, I'm Brinson. We will see you guys later.